So the starship, crashes, and we see the Y-wing. I think it was the Y-wing that Rex commandeered with Ahsoka, and it's parked right in front of it. And Rex has like a pack on. Even looks like a camping pack almost. He's got like a bed on there and stuff. Like, it seems like they'd been there several days. I'm assuming they buried a lot of clones. It wasn't just what we saw in that moment, but they've been there a while. Luke, what sticks out to me in that moment was the music. It was completely different from anything we've heard. It almost had a man. I don't know if anyone watched Man of Steel, like the newer Superman movie, but it had that kind of feel, just like hope, but like it was gritty, it was dark, there was like really dark synth in there. That sticks out for me, and obviously there's great imagery, but what did you feel in that moment?
Yeah, I think the music has been outstanding throughout the arc. Really, the last two episodes I mentioned last night, I could watch that last episode with my eyes closed because it just sounded beautifully, and you could get the emotion of the episode in the sound, in the music, and in the sound design and everything. And I think this one largely has that quality as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, like, you're right, there was definitely like the sorrowful situation that they were in with Order 66 having happened, the galaxy transitioning to this despotic rule, and so much of the 501st that Rex and Ahsoka cared for and respected, and received that care and respect back until the Order 66 flip.
Yeah.
They're processing through all of that tragedy, and trying to still pay their respects to these clones, even after they've passed. And I think it's a nice continuation of the bridge scene from the last episode, where Rex just talks about the existence of the clones and why, how they only exist because of this war. But what does that mean to only be bred for that war? And are you really that missed when you're gone, if that's all you're there for? But at least, with Ahsoka and with Rex surviving on, they'll kind of carry these clones with them moving forward.
Absolutely. And all the fam listening, I want you guys to throw in the chat, what did you think of that moment? Anything specifically that stuck out to you that's gonna probably be ingrained in your mind forever? I'd say those 30 seconds of that show are it's the best of Clone Wars, in my opinion. And so throw in the chat what you really liked about it, and we'll chat about it here. But
I'll tell you what I liked about it.
That's what I was going to come to you next, Holly.
I really liked the imagery. I liked the graves with the clones and how the helmets were the grave markers. And awesome. The first thing that I thought of when we were watching it is I was like, that's what we see in The Mandalorian with all the trooper helmets.
Now they're on pikes, they're being stabbed through the helmet, but that imagery kind of ties it in, right?
And then right after watching the Clone Wars, we put on the documentary.
Oh, that's a whole nother conversation.
One, but
holy cow.
It's funny because in part of that documentary, Dave Filoni actually talks. There's a whole conversation between him and Jon Favreau about how Filoni thought it would be so cool to do that with the helmets in The Mandalorian, and then all of a sudden here it is again in Clone Wars. And I just feel like you really get like a sense of the things that, like, these are people making it, and if they think something looks cool, they're gonna use it. And so I kind of like that.
He says he said it reminded him of Apocalypse Now, right? Yeah. He's like that. It's reminiscent of that, and he's absolutely right. Like I could not have described it better, and that kind of had this feel as well. And you're right, the panning down the line of helmets, and then we stop on Jesse's helmet, and I was just like, wow, like cut that scene out, put it on my wall. Like that's epic. It sums up Order 66, the entire series, like ultimately, like we created these humans, and this is where they are now, and ultimately they all will be, not just this part of the 501st, but like the clones are seen as inferior to recruits and people they kidnap later on in the First Order, right? So like, and the Empire phases them out too, and they discard them. So
I think it's really cool to compare that Mandalorian stuff you're talking about.
Yeah,
because it's almost the same image, but the feeling and the message is so different.
Yes.
So different.
With
yeah.
the helmets being impaled and bloodied on spikes versus marking a grave that took time to dig by hand and a mark of respect. I think the other image that really stands out to me is Ahsoka in the robe with her hood up.
Yeah.
It's sort of the classic kind of pensive Jedi look with your hood up, and it is much like or reminded me of the Rebels finale.
Yes.
You see that same image of her hooded and standing and kind of, concentrating, thinking deep thoughts about what's past and what's about to come.
You know what else it reminded me of? It reminded me of Anakin.
Why?
Just I don't know. Just the way she was poised with her hood up. It took me to him on Mustafar. Didn't he have a hood up there and you see him cry? It just, I don't know. It just echoed Mustafar and Anakin for me. And you're right, Rebels too. Like, I was like, is that the same depiction of Ahsoka we see in Rebels? It seemed like it. But yeah, and that whole moment too, like this star freighter, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, crashes, right? And I'm sure that sends a distress call to someone else, some other unit, someone's going to come and check this out. Rex and Ahsoka stick around for what seems days to bury the dead. It's just like, you know what? Yeah, we're on the run, but like, we're not worried about that. We're going to make sure, we knew, to the core who these people were, and they were jeopardized, and they deserve better than this. So we're going to stick around regardless of what else happens. We're going to make sure that they're treated right, no matter what the cost. I thought that was freaking awesome. Because there's no way it was like 10 minutes later and they stuck around and buried everyone. There's just no way. And then we see, the environment change. And for a second, I'm like, are we on Hoth?
That's what I thought.
What the hell's happening? And then you see the cruiser, or what? Star Destroyer. I want to call it a Star Destroyer, but I don't know why. Covered in snow. You see snow troopers, you see probe droids, and you see some stormtroopers. And I was just blown away. I'm like, oh my God. I never expected Clone Wars to advance in time. I was like, wait, it did in Rebels, but we had that kind of where are they now moment in history. But it blew my mind, and it looked just like Rebels. The stormtroopers looked just like Rebels. It tied in so nicely. And the way they introduced Vader, you just see his feet walk past those stormtroopers. I was like, oh my God, he's searching for Ahsoka. So he walks up to the ship and brushes off a saber he finds in the snow and lights it. And above flying is remind me of the name. It's the owl-like.
Morai. Luke,
Morai,
is that correct?
The condor. I think that's what they call him.
Condor.
Do they not call them condors?
He's a convor.
Convor. What did I call it?
It is, and I didn't get a chance to look it up ahead of time. But yeah, it's such a symbol that we come to associate with Ahsoka now.
Yeah, and it's just genius writing, because we don't all understand what. I mean, we understand Morai as a symbol of the light. If you're familiar with the Mortis arc and all that story with the father, the son, and the daughter, we see Morai. I'm going to call it Morai.
I think that's what it is.
Okay. We see Morai with the daughter. We also see Morai with Ahsoka at times, and she says that Morai protected her. I don't think we fully understand what that means or what they experienced together, but how genius to just put that creature in there in that moment and make it the most confusing thing in the Clone Wars and probably the most debated thing, in Star Wars. So I got to come to you, Luke. I tried to read a couple articles today. I see some people saying, "Oh, clearly Vader knows she's alive. He lit up the saber and he sees the Morai, and of course he thinks she's alive." I disagree, but I want to hear what you have to say about it. What does that moment mean? What is Vader experiencing?
I took it as he thinks she's dead. Yeah. Based on his reaction in Rebels, which I just watched that episode where they get in that dogfight, the Ghost crew and Vader in his tie. And I think his exact words when he sort of feels her through the Force, because her and Kanan are kind of using the Force to try to, resist him in the dogfight and survive the dogfight.
Yeah.
And I think he says the apprentice lives, I think is his line there.
Lives.
So I think this was why Vader thinks she's dead to begin with, that for him to say that in Rebels. So that's how I took it, that this was a nagging question in his mind. Took him a while maybe to track down the crashed Star Destroyer, because there were, other things going on when you become a Sith Lord and you're adjusting to a burnt body and all that in the new armor.
Yeah.
So he eventually gets around, tracks down, this 501st Star Destroyer that went missing, and I think he thinks she went down with the ship at that point.
Holly, we know at this time, and it's another question. How long ago? How far after did this happen? A year? A couple of years? We know Vader is out there hunting Jedi. We know he's got his little minions. Why do I forget what they're called?
Little minions?
Not his minions, but
Inquisitors.
The Inquisitors. Why do I forget that? So
little minions.
How many Inquisitors did I slay in
I'm
Law
just
and Order?
thinking of Despicable Me now, and Darth Vader actually minions.
That actually would be really a funny parody.
The crossover of the century.
Yeah, I'd be down to watch that. But we don't really know how much time has passed then. But Holly, you read some of the articles too of people thinking that this clearly showed that, of course, he knows she's alive. What do you think?
I think that to him, when he found her lightsaber, he was like, okay, she's passed. But I can understand how some people can be interpreting it differently.
Yeah.
Because her owl is still there, and so if you think about that, I don't think if she had passed in that spot, I don't think the owl would just be sticking around.
Yeah.
But I don't know. As far as I don't know. I just think at that point, to me, he does think that she's dead. But I do think that something really cool about this community and how many, different perspectives there are is that people can say, to me, this indicates X, Y, and Z, and they're not wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not. There's no Star Wars here. Hey,
no
Holly.
Star Wars.
No, I'm not saying they're wrong. I just have a difference of opinion, and that's okay, right?
That's fine. That's what we're here to talk about.
Absolutely.
Nettie said nobody expects the Imperial Inquisition.
Never. And here's what else is great about it. So you talk about the Morai, let's call it the owl, so everyone knows what we're talking about.
Okay.
In my opinion, I almost feel as if Morai is protecting Ahsoka in this moment by being there in this moment. The bird, the owl, knows that she's being hunted by Vader, and in that moment, if he or she is present in where she died, it's almost as if the owl is protecting her in her grave. That's how I took it. And Vader sees it and says, "Why would this creature leave her side if it's her true protector? Why would it be here in this moment?" and he finds the saber. The other question though I have is Ahsoka dropping the saber and saying like, I'm done with the order, I'm just letting go, and I'm gonna go off and just be something different, you know? Or is this actively, I'm leaving this here so they think I'm dead and they won't pursue me? Or is it both? Ollie?
Oh, me again?
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of both. When I watched it the first time, I was like, she is doing that to kind of be like, I know enough now to see that this is going to turn into a witch hunt for the Jedi.
Yeah.
And I am not going to be tracked down. I feel like there is still work that I can do. I survived this for a reason.
Yeah.
I still think that she would say, you know, the Force brought me here and let me get to this point.
Yeah.
I need to keep going.
Yeah.
And so I felt like when I watched it for the first time that she dropped the lightsaber to just be like, here's evidence that I didn't get up and walk away from this, because what Jedi would leave their lightsaber behind, you know?
Yeah.
But the more that I watched it the second time and now we're having this conversation, I do think maybe it was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because I think, I mean, just the symbolism there of her just very slowly staring at her lightsaber and then letting it like roll off of her hand.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Luke, at that moment, I mean, is it purposeful? Is it a diversion because she knows she's going to be pursued later? Or is it, you know, just kind of a, you know, that's me letting go of everything and going off into the sunset just to be alone and to go into hiding and find another purpose?
Yeah, I don't think in that moment she's thinking that long term.
Yeah.
I think it's a continuation of some of the things she talked about in the Martez sister arc.
Yeah.
Sort of dealing with her feelings about what the Jedi ideally are.
Yeah.
And what they are in the galaxy at present and practice, you know, that doesn't necessarily line up with their ideals. And her struggle with that, and the reason that she kind of walked away is the gap between the Jedi in practice and the Jedi ideally. So to me, I think it's just like disgust and sorrow at the failing of the Jedi to avoid the Clone Wars and to avoid the outcome of Order 66 and Palpatine's takeover. And it's realizing that the path forward has to be a different way. Yeah. You know, that this order is gone and I need to find a new path. And I think it jives nicely with where we see her at the beginning of the Ahsoka novel, which I haven't read for a while. But in my recollection, that kind of the headspace we see her in here, I think lines up with where she is when that opens up.
Yeah, absolutely. Or maybe we learn a little more about, because to me, it's almost just like she's broken in that moment. And it's not, I'm going to find another cause to join. It's, I am broken. And her hand kind of goes limp and the lightsaber falls out of it as if like, I'm exhausted. I've lost so much. I lost probably my best friend. I lost all of these friends, you know, of the clones, and everyone. I was taken from the Jedi, from my family, with the Jedi as a young. She has nobody. She has nobody. It's no different than the rest of the Jedi, or you know even some of the Sith, you know, or the Inquisitors going and looking for Force sensitives. Like, she has nobody left, and it's almost just like I give up. You know, like Luke said, this isn't the way. This isn't the way. Right? It's weird saying that, you know.